You want to move to California?
God, no. Thanks, though.
What if you didn't have to actually move to California, but the state just became California? California laws and California politics and California taxes and California ideas and
I would move somewhere else. Like, I would just go somewhere different.
what if you couldn't? What if you were trapped?
Probably start heavily drinking.
Listen to this.
Okay.
Let's get right to economist EJ and Tony with this story. EJ, it looks like this is a game changer. It's good to have you on. It's good to see you. Okay, what do you make of this? Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin saying no to a state electric car mandate, saying no to getting rid of gas cars. This was a move that was adopted by Democrats a few years ago. Plus, Virginia's saying, no, we're no longer going to follow California's standards here. What do you think of this?
California standards being imposed on other states. Like, since when is California the end all be all for the future of politics for the other states?
Because California is doing exactly what the White House wants. The White House wants everybody going electric. The White House wants there to be less. When I say the White House, I mean the current administration wants there to be more electric cars, more electric heating and air, more electric cooking, more all these different things that are on the grid versus things that give you the ability to be independent, or, they want the country to go greener. So they want to move away from all these different things. And California is technically the main state that is falling in line with what the administration wants.
I'm trying to find this map that I found earlier today, and it showed California as the worst state.
Well, yeah, because the things that this administration is pushing are going to be are detrimental to a lot of things.
Keep listening here.
Bravo to Governor Youngkin. He is actually standing up for his constituents. He is doing what the people want. Look, Lizzie, at the end of the day, Americans don't.
I like that. Doing what the people want.
Not what the corporations want, because what California is doing is what helps the corporations, which is what the administration wants done, is what helps the corporations. The ones pushing for electric are the ones who are behind producing things that are electric, that are going to make the money. The ones who are pushing for, solar power and wind farms or whatever they want to call them, are the ones who
waste some money.
Are the ones who profit from it, though.
So the map, I found the map.
The map.
I'll just send you.
Okay. Totally off topic, but there's going to be a Practical Magic 2 with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, and I'm super excited.
I never saw Practical Magic 1.
Well, you will be watching it today, so you can't say that tomorrow.
Great.
See what you've done to yourself? It's such a good movie. I love it. All right, send me the thing. Oh, there it is. This is colorful. This map will change no people. Just like Canada, the North, never ever, America.
Never ever, ever ever.
The worst state. Yeah, well, casinos. That's obviously Nevada.
I like that we're included in America.
I can't read what the top left one says, but I assume it says Bigfoot. What does it say?
Oh man,
what is Washington and Oregon? What does that say?
That one says
rain. No.
I don't know what that says.
At first I thought it said rainforest, but that's not right.
I don't know what that says.
But I mean, rainforest would make sense, remember? Because that's where the Sequoia National Park, I think, or whatever it's called. And there was a lot of wet weather between Washington and Oregon and a lot of trees and stuff like that. I mean, it was pretty in a lot of different parts.
Don't want these electric vehicles forced upon them. They like their traditional, reliable internal combustion engines. And if the fruits and nuts in California want to enforce these kind of mandates, then go ahead, by all means, state.
Yeah, fruits and nuts in California, go ahead, but don't make the rest of the country do it.
Well, it's interesting. He said reliable.
Side note, yeah. I was talking to Griffin yesterday. Mm-hmm. He said, will you ever buy an EV? I said, no.
No.
I said, not anytime soon. I mean, we're looking 5 to 10 years down the road before I'd even consider it. And he said, and I said, I like a Taycan, but I don't want a Taycan. He goes,
Yeah.
I know somebody bought one for about 195,000, and it's only, they're only 2-3 years old since they came out. He goes, we're trying to get 70 for it. Used. We're trying to get 70 for it used. He goes, by the way, they just issued a recall on all the batteries.
Oh, that's lovely.
All
So
the
for
batteries.
Porsche, for those who don't know, that's Porsche.
What were you going to say?
Well, when that guy said, I don't even remember the word he used, but basically dependable. I mean,
And if the fruits and nuts in California want to enforce these kind of mandates, then go ahead. But
no, before that, how he described
they like their traditional, reliable internal combustion
Okay.
engines.
So, a couple things. Traditional, it's hard to move away from traditional things. I mean, it just is. It's hard to move away from tradition to something new. So, some people don't want EV because it's new and not stuff they know and understand, and it's scary. That makes sense to me. But the main thing for me is moving away from reliability, moving away from things that you know how to work on, that things that make sense to you and that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg at the end of the day. The whole thing with EV, electric vehicles, is that it is so incredibly expensive. They may say, oh, they don't cost that much to buy now, we've lowered costs. Well, that's because it costs more to replace the batteries than it did to buy the car to begin with. And people don't have that kind of money. Your insurance, car insurance, isn't going to cover that kind of thing. So it makes it unreliable for a lot of people. The fact that they cause fires. When's the last time you saw a regular gas-powered car just randomly catch fire?
Oh, yeah, especially here with hurricane season coming, because the salt water is a superconductor that sparks the fire for these batteries that once they ignite, they can't be
Oh,
extinguished.
yeah, you can't be extinguished. And who's running around with car-sized fire cover blankets?
Not to mention, I don't even think the fire department has them. I don't think the trucks are outfitted with them.
No.
Not to mention, there's going to be a tax for the per mile since you're not buying fuel. We're going to see the price per kilowatt hour go up on a grid that can't sustain it, which we'll talk about in a minute.
You also have to assume that your homeowner's insurance goes up the second you buy an electric vehicle, given the fact that they are prone to just random fires.
In addition to certain states taxing you more to title them, and where the loss of the incentive from the government as a rebate to buy them. Plus, there was one more. Oh, they track you. They track you and send your information and data back to the insurance companies.
Yeah, because that's, again, there's reasons for the push for everything to go electric.
And if the fruits and nuts in California want to enforce these kind of mandates, then go ahead. By all means, states are laboratories of democracy. Everyone gets to do what they want in their respective states, and that's why people are leaving California, because they don't want mandates like this. They're sick of the high taxes, the regulations, etc. There's a reason why everyone's leaving California, and that's a good reason not to duplicate Californian policies.
I think it's interesting. It's either everyone's leaving Florida or everyone's leaving California, and between the two states, they are polar opposites in how they are run and the type of people who generally want to be there. It's just very interesting.
So it's almost like we need a new political party, or not a new, but like a different political party, because too far left, too far right, you need I don't know if there's a right in the middle. I don't know if there's a right in the middle.
Is independent considered right in the middle?
But no, what I'm saying is I don't know if what would be desired is right in the middle.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
You see?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly what people would really want.
Well, I mean, if I would much rather have the choice between...
Or if they would want like an 80-20, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'd rather have a choice between what I'm going to do versus a forced what I'm going to do.
You know, what EJ just said, let's bring in former U.S. Energy Secretary Governor Rick Perry. Governor, so this prior Democrat, Governor Northam, said, Virginia's got to adopt California's electric car mandates. Now Governor Youngkin says, no, we're not going to do that. You wonder if these 16 other states that were doing that, adopting California's standards, will now follow Virginia. What do you think?
I think that these states should stop being damn...
Sheeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, you don't have to follow along, just get in line and follow it like a row of ducks. Oh, there's a duck going that way. I should get in line and follow that duck.
Washington, Oregon, Nevada,
What?
I don't know. I'm trying to make these states sound funny. Colorado, New Mexico, Vermont, Maine, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Virginia, Maryland.
So basically, Democratic states are the ones following in California's footstep, because a Republican state wouldn't do so.
Well, that's certainly why the 10th Amendment was set up to begin with, so that states could be the laboratory of innovation. They could compete against each other, and they need to decide on their own what are the best policies. As a general rule, we didn't follow California. We went over and competed for California businesses by not.
He's like smiling and laughing as he's saying it. He's like, you could tell he's like, because it's just
Is
stupid.
that the Virginia guy?
No, this is Texas. Wait,
Okay.
no.
Is that Greg Abbott?
Overtaxing, overregulating.
No, it's Rick Perry,
Okay.
former Texas governor.
Workforce with the accountable public schools. And we won that contest. And California has some real challenges on their hand. The electrical grid being not one of the least of their problems they've got over there. So even
Yeah, let's see. That's what. Actually, I'll ask the chat, the comment section, to list California's problems from greatest to least.
Oh gosh, you're gonna be there forever.
I wonder where on this list falls the price of real estate, where if you want a crappy house, you're going to need at least $1 million, or the amount of fecal matter that's scattered around that you need an app to show you so you don't happen to step in it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was fun in good old San Fran.
Or tornadoes or hurricanes or earthquakes or wildfires or atmospheric rivers or the crime and the police that don't actually do anything about it, or the gas prices or the roads that are eroding away and landslides. Like,
the craziest thing to me was still driving down Rodeo Drive, and then literally the next block was a homeless encampment. Like, you went
that
from
was wild.
Bentleys and Rolls Royces and just money
That was wild.
to completely homeless encampments. It was absolutely crazy. It's like a grid, like in its own little square, you have these different things. They're all squared off. You know what I mean? It was absolutely crazy. There was no slow conversion from money to lack of. It was a hard line, and it was very eye-opening. I think going through that one little part of California that we went through LA and that area, was more eye-opening than anywhere besides Seattle. Seattle, whew, man. But yeah.
Seattle's is bad. Like, I'm happy that we had an opportunity to experience it, but I honestly don't know if that's going to be possible moving forward, because I think that they're on such a drastic decline that eventually they'll just close.
Well, what sucks is, you know that thing, don't meet your heroes, how it goes?
Right.
That's how I felt about going to Seattle. Like, I had it in my mind that it was going to be great. I used to watch, when I was younger, Real World, and I like the Seattle, and you see Seattle on all these TV shows and stuff like that. I think Grey's Anatomy is like Seattle based. But anyway, you see all these things and you're like, oh, it's gorgeous. I can't wait to go. And then you get there and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, nobody showed this part. They glossed it over.
The Instagrams and the TikToks to go like what the vacation is supposed to look like, and then when you actually get there.
Yeah.
EVs are fine. It ought to be left up to the market for people to decide whether they want to drive electric cars or not. Here's the bigger challenge. We don't have the infrastructure for electric cars across the country.
Which is the whole entire thing that I've talked about numerous times, is you already have to have rolling brownouts, rolling blackouts because of the lack of electricity. You have them raising prices just so you can use your AC, just so you can have your refrigerator on, just so you can use light bulbs when you get home from work.
To turn the heat up, or at least not turn the AC on.
Yeah.
And to wait till after 7 or 8 to use your electricity.
Yeah, you can't wash your clothes or do any of that kind of stuff. And then they want to go to where you're now plugging in all these vehicles. Again, it's more about control at the end of the day, because you will then be subject to, you can't leave your house from this time to this time because you couldn't charge your car until this time to this time. It's going to be a shit show.
Well, think about it from the perspective of national security, and all they have to do is unplug us.
That's what I've said the whole time. Like,
unplug us.
Yeah, which is why.
And then it's like, well, what happened? Well, just give it 24 hours, and everybody's batteries will die, And like, because it won't be instant, but eventually, as long as they can't recharge,
And it's going to look like something out of I Am Legend or The Walking Dead, where all the cars are just strewn across the streets and in the driveways and stuff, and nothing's working.
and it'll be lions.
Tigers and bears, oh my.
I think the idea of electric cars are fine, but if you don't have the way to fuel them efficiently, and we don't across the country, I think there is some abysmally small amount of these charging stations across the country. So the idea that we're going to be inundated with electric cars all of a sudden, like the Biden administration would like to pursue, it's not going to happen.
It is crazy.
It's not going to happen.
It is crazy that there's such a push, like all these manufacturers started producing all these electric vehicles without a way to charge them or people to work on them or any of these other kind of things, without enough batteries to replace the things. Like, cart before the horse, people. Like, it made absolutely no sense to me.
Griffin said he ordered a new 2500. It's going to take him 90 days to get it because the manufacturer, a Chevy, GM, is down to like 1-2 shifts maybe. He goes, 90 days to get a truck. He goes, you don't have any available and ready. And as this guy's talking, they're showing, some Ford's EVs. We're going to talk about Ford in a minute and their whole EV disaster. But they're in panic mode. I would love to know how many electric vehicles and electric equipment and how much of this EV push actually goes into creating EV, especially from the standpoint of the rescue vehicle for EVs are gas-powered vehicles, diesel-powered vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, they're still not moving the military things over to electric. They're not going to move over anything the president's riding around in into electric. Everything's still going to stay a certain way for certain areas, but it's you and I and the little folks who are expected to fall in line with this because we're the ones that need to be controlled, not them.
Will not comply.
We only have 7 to 8 EV charging stations. The Biden White House is spending $7.5 billion. The Daily Caller reports that the Biden White House has little to nothing to show for the $1.2 trillion infrastructure spending. $454 billion was supposed to go to U.S. states across something like nearly 60,000 projects. Only one broke ground. That's the Penn Station Access Project. The other are delayed, but this is typical. But, these boondoggles that we're finding here, at least a $400 billion slush fund run out of the EPA for climate change. They got to spend something like $27 billion starting now before September. I mean, that's $400 billion fund is like, EJ, it's like 7 times the EPA's entire budget.
The easiest way to I was about to say the easiest way to launder money is to put it out like this and then give the contracts to government entities, and then they just recycle the money through and through.
It's funny because I actually have a note here and it says Elon Musk is still rich. Because Tesla got a chunk of that money.
And then he stopped making the chargers. Yeah. He got a certain amount of money to make these superchargers, and then he pulled the entire team and put it on the back burner and said he was working on something else, but he still has the money. The government didn't take the money back and say, oh, well, until you start working, we're going to hold on to this.
Elon Musk wins Tesla shareholder battle to keep his record-breaking pay.
I saw that too.
Tesla shareholders reapproved Elon Musk's record-breaking pay pact and signed off on a new Texas incorporation and a show of support for the CEO as he fights legal battles on multiple fronts. And let's see here.
Texas is the state where he bought out that little town. I don't remember what it's called, but he bought basically a whole entire city, a whole entire town so that he could put his employees in housing there so that it was easier for them.
Elon Musk bought 6,000 acres in Texas. He bought thousands of acres of land 35 miles outside of Austin and plans to build his own town there.
Yep.
For employees to live and work. That's an interesting concept.
That's
an interesting. I am now I don't know if I want to say slave, but it's like, oh man, you used to think that, man, when I get off of work and I go and I leave work, I could leave work behind. And no, you can't. That doesn't happen anymore. And now you literally can't because you live
And think of that. If he decides to get rid of your section or lay you off, now you're also homeless. As opposed to just losing your job, now you don't have a place to live because they are tied together, which makes it even worse.
And Amazon is doing the same thing. Amazon is building neighborhoods as well.
Mm-hmm. It's the new takeover. Like, think about it. It's the literal definition of what people are worried about, these 15-minute cities, because you have to assume it is where you live, where you work, where you eat, where you play, right? They want you to be able to not have to do anything. So if that's what Amazon's doing and Tesla's doing, they're building these neighborhoods, and inside this neighborhood is your work. You literally can just walk to work. They are like, well, we'll make it easier for you because we don't want you to have to blah, blah, blah. They put in a grocery store. There's a movie theater just to keep people happy. You are now in that 15-minute city that people are worried about. Technically, those are all over the place. Any downtown area is a 15-minute city. People don't look at it that way, though. This is what I think people worry about, this definition of a 15-minute city.
Well, it's happening. It's coming. It's coming. In states like California, it's like full steam ahead, gung-ho.
Exactly. And see, this is one of the reasons why we continue to see the government sector growing so fast relative to the real economy. In fact, in the jobs report data today, government was the second fastest growing of all sectors, second only to healthcare, which is dominated by government anyway. So it just goes to show you how many taxpayer dollars are behind all of this alleged job growth. But, in terms of this EV nonsense, it's absolutely true. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't even have the electrical generation right now to actually to fuel, to recharge these vehicles. So the idea that
I wonder if that's why California is letting certain cities like San Francisco and places in San Diego and in certain places go to absolute shit, so that maybe people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos will come through and buy up the whole city and turn it into something else, because they have the space, the structure, it's already built. You just need somebody with money to come in and turn it into something else.
And he definitely has a lot of money.
So the idea that we can somehow force everyone into them, I mean, it's just absolute nonsense.
Final word, Governor, on this.
Yeah, absolutely. He's hit the nail on the head from the standpoint. We got an electric grid right now all across the country that's really on the edge. If we have this major heat dome moves in, stays for a while, the wind quits blowing, we have a hurricane along the East Coast or more likely in the Gulf Coast, you could have an absolute massive tragedy on your hand because this country has not focused on that electric grid, and we're focused on wind and solar. Those are fine as additions, but if you don't have the base load of nuclear power and gas-powered turbines, you're going to be in trouble.
E.J. Antoni, Rick Perry, Governor, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us.
So what's interesting to me is, what's always been interesting to me is this massive push and all this money aimed at all of this. And then in November of 2024, when somebody else wins the election and jumps into the White House and does a full 180, then what happens with all the projects that haven't started or have started, with the money that's been allocated, with all the people who've bought the EVs, with everything else, and it gets flipped, and you no longer have to be EV by 2030. You no longer have to do this.
I think that there's some folks operating out there similar to we were just listening to, who are almost like they're a few months. Mm-hmm. They're a few months to 4 years ahead of us. Mm-hmm. They're a few months to 4, maybe 8 years ahead of us, because they're like, we're gonna place our bet on what makes sense mm-hmm. and what the people actually want, mm-hmm. not who's currently in office.
Yeah. But then at the same time, as a corporation or as certain people, if you don't follow these new rules and laws that are passed in the current administration, does that hurt you during that time frame?
You talk about hurt. This could, in fact, be the civil war that we actually see, and it could be between the government and capitalism, mm-hmm. right? So, in essence, the government says you have to do this, mm-hmm. and so if you don't, you fear that it could hurt you in mm-hmm. your business. But if the businesses say, let's all band together and say no, well, then the government has to decide, are we going to allow this to shut down our country? Mm-hmm. Because literally, I think that, there's a few industries out there, one of which is, rail freight. and how much of an impact they have, and however many, was it $2 billion a day in our GDP, basically, that have so much control and influence. And then we have petroleum. But I would think that the automotive industry, the big three, have they swing a big dick when it comes to how much control and power. These are the same ones that the government couldn't let fail with bailouts.
Yeah.
The government has shown their hand that how much they need and rely on them.
Well,
and if they, the big three, or multiple other manufacturers outside of Tesla and Lucid and Rivian, they ain't big enough, okay? They ain't big enough.
That's what I was going to say. You have more EV companies popping up than you do combustion companies popping up.
But these EVs are boutiques. These are little boutique shops.
And that's what people want. People like boutique shit. That's
that ain't
the
what
problem.
America wants.
No, that's not what
America wants.
That's not what our age and up America wants. You have to look at younger America who are being...
Younger America can't afford
let me
it.
finish. Don't Candace Owens me. Or that lady too, Candace Owens. So what's her face? Don't crystal ball me. So... I'm not done talking. So no, you have to think about it. The younger generations are being shown how great.
I'm sorry, we're out of time. We really got to cut this.
Okay.
We're out of time. We got to cut this.
Cute. What was his name? Rick? I don't know what the guy's name is. I don't know the guy's name in this show. Rick? Chuck? I don't know. I don't know what his name is. Anyway, so you have to think about it. You and I see things a different way because we grew up differently. The kids now are growing up with the things that we are not okay with. And they are the ones who are going to be the sliding factor, the deciding factor of a lot of stuff. The people who think like you and I are slowly dwindling, dying out, literally. So you're going to have the people who are more likely to fall in line with electric this and get rid of petroleum and let's all go vegan and climate change this and everything else. So it's going to be interesting, I think. Because you were saying the big three, the bailout of the big three. That's what I was thinking of. And the big three were bailed out for, people like you and I and above, age-wise. The new companies that are coming in, you called them boutique. That's the main thing that people younger than us like. They don't want to go to these big places. They want to go to these one-stop whatevers, these TikTok online Etsy stores and Pinterest and all these one-offs because that's what they like. So they're not the ones rushing out to buy Ford. They're not the ones rushing out to buy Chevy or Nissan. They are the ones who are driving around in the Teslas, in the Rivians, in the whatever else out there is electric.
And when they happy ass break down, ain't nobody coming to get them because there's no electric tow trucks.
And I understand that, but they do not.
There's
and that's
no
the problem.
electric Hero trucks. Side note, we're going to talk about these vehicles a little bit more, but moving back on, or getting back to what was said earlier about the electrical grid and this heat wave and all these problems. And what I shared with you earlier was heat kills more Americans than flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, or lightning. And
we saw it in Las Vegas, remember?
Yeah. So, a body just laying on the ground with a white sheet over it. Yeah. Pretty,
not something you ever forget.
Pretty rough. And so, U.S. weather fatalities, heat is high on the list, leaps and bounds beyond everything else. And so,
remember when they tried to say that the heat is what killed 10,000 cattle last summer? Just randomly, it got too hot for those 10,000 cattle in that one spot, but nowhere else.
Climate change is what killed the cattle. Technically. If you're going to say heat did it, then you have to say climate change did it because we've always had heat.
Yeah.
So you have to then say that climate change did it because it's hotter than ever.
But we also know that's not accurate at all.
Yeah. I'm not saying...
On what killed the cows. I'm not saying it's not hotter than ever. I mean, it's hot, but that's not what killed the cows.
Speaking of killing, Ford... If I can find it.
Randomly thinking about what I'm going to make for breakfast.
What do you think you're going to make for breakfast?
I guess just the same old eggs and a waffle.
I'm thinking about it, but I'll probably just make the same thing. Ford is killing off the dealership program that required hefty investment to sell electric models. Ford enables all dealers to sell EVs, bringing 90% of Americans within reach. That's You got to read between the lines on that
Well,
one.
they just meant there's more locations where people can go find them, not that it makes it easier for them to be able to afford
The
one or have
exclusivity
one.
of offering EVs
Yeah.
will be eliminated. They're killing that off. Ford backtracks on a plan to make dealers invest $500,000 just to sell them, just to sell EVs. Ford sees the writing on the wall.
Why would they
Jim
need
Farley-
to invest? Because they have to get the charging stations in each of the dealerships, maybe? That's the only way I can think of that these dealerships would need to invest. But
There was a long list of, between the service station and the charging stations and the training and, the vehicles themselves of actually using their floor plan to finance these vehicles, to have them available. Like,
it always seems to me that if Ford wants to sell them, Ford should be the ones, like the manufacturer should be the ones doing these things to the dealerships in order to sell their own vehicles. It shouldn't be up to the dealership or whoever manages it. Or
unfortunately, that's the problem with being a partner in a franchise is you are subject to what the franchise owner wants. Now, if you want to be an independent dealership, great, go for it. But you can't sell Fords new.
yeah,
Okay? And therefore, if you want to be independent, then sell only pre-owned or become your own manufacturer. And then go direct to consumer. You can go online and buy a Tesla from Tesla,
yeah.
which Ford actually wanted to do. And they probably should have. But
Like Carvana style?
Hindsight, Carvana is all used. There's no new cars.
Yeah,
with
but I meant
Carvana.
like you go online and you pick it and they bring it to you. That kind of thing is
The
what you're saying
dealership would
Ford
be cut
should
out.
do? Yeah.
And they were going to do it with the electric vehicles, and there was going to be Model E. They were going to make a new company called Model E, and and then they were going to sell direct to consumer and cut out the dealership. You can imagine the uprising that would have happened if Ford did that with their dealerships.
Well, because then there's no jobs and things like that.
And then the last thing I would want to do is have an electric vehicle and then take it into a Ford dealership for service, and they're like, "You didn't buy that from us."
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's crazy. It's wild. I don't want to move to California. I don't want California to move here.
No.
I don't think that would happen, fortunately, with the way that Ron DeSantis runs the state of Florida. But regardless, it is happening in some states, and people need to be aware.
I agree.